Hey, so what do you do when times are really wobbly as they are now, where there's a lot of chaos around you and you don't know what's going to happen one day to the next, whether it be financially, politically, environmentally, if you're living in countries where there's lots of climate change impacts? I want to talk today about spiritual resilience because that for me is the most important thing right now. There are several aspects to being spiritually resilient, and I'll go through those at least briefly in this little video. And I'm also going to be doing a course in more detail for those of you who are interested. So, what does resilience mean? Resilience as a term actually means about bouncing back. It's where you kind of get knocked and then you step back up again, etc. But for me, real spiritual resilience is not only bouncing back to where you were before, but actually growing as a result so that you're at a whole new other plateau or level. So we might call it spiritual resilience with a touch of growth and evolution as part of it, particularly in these particular times where there is a lot of impulse for people to be, or people need to be growing and changing and adapting as much as possible. So these are the different areas that I think are part of spiritual resilience. First of all, attention. Where do you put your attention? Are you looking at social media a huge amount and looking through the comments, looking for news, for example, in particular sites or forums that kind of feed your addiction to the drama? Or are you staying off social media completely or making sure your inbox is actually filled with material that really, really supports you? You can actually adjust things like Facebook if you're on Facebook or Instagram or various other platforms so that you only get certain things in your stream. So I'd strongly encourage people, if you're not detoxing completely, to going in and managing your algorithm so that you're really clicking on looking at things that feed you. YouTube, for example, this platform, you can manipulate the platform by watching a video all the way through to the end, and then it will just show you more of those videos. So think about where you're putting your attention in terms of social media. Also, the kind of people that you're surrounding yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with people who are ringing you up or sending you messages socially that are filled with panic and fear? Are you finding yourself propping up others or kind of gossiping with others about other people? Is the energy that you're feeding other people bouncing back on you in a negative way? So I think attention, where you're putting your attention and how you're focusing your attention is super, super important right now. And that is not just media, it's of any kind online, it's conversations, it's where you place yourself and what kind of things you're feeding yourself, not just getting rid of negative stuff, but also uplifting things, listening to music or watching videos that are really feeding your soul rather than sort of junk food that in the end is actually going to give you some horrible disease later. So attention is the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing is about discernment. And spiritual discernment is about where you are energetically acting in the world. It's, for example, minding your own business. Are you engaging in activities that are outside the scope of the things that will really support boundaries for you or support you to be really in your self-worth? It's kind of being discerning about your job, about your friends, about kind of things that you engage with actively. So all of these things interrelate, by the way, as you'll see. But I think discernment is being much more discerning and judging in a good way about the kinds of things you say and do out in the world. Spiritual routine or spiritual practice is actually getting into some habits that are actually going to be really useful for you. For example, meditating. Some people can't do that. What about a walk at night? What about a prayer in whatever sense of the word that means for you, speaking to spirit or spirits? What about having a little shrine of some kind or altar where you put special things that remind you of things, or journaling? What are some activities where every single day, no matter how awful the day might be or scared or fearful you might be, how can you come back to this touchstone, to something that's really going to support you in some form? And I've mentioned some of those in the course that I'm doing. I'll give you a few more and we can work out things that fit for you and not. For some people, it's listening to relaxing YouTube videos. For other people, it's doing some exercise. It's something where every single day there's kind of a point where your body gets into the habit of knowing that there's a safety zone for it. And then that brings me to boundaries and safety. Spiritual boundaries is where you hold a really clear line of protection, if you wish, around things that belong to others and not. And obviously, this relates to things I've just mentioned, it's similar to. But this is, for example, walking out and imagining you've got a white light around you or some kind of protection, or using certain crystals or certain kind of mantras, so that you're actively creating a boundary between you and things that shouldn't be in your field, or that are not in accord with you, do not resonate with you. And boundaries is a really, really important thing. It's like setting up protections. And again, I'll go through some of those in the course that I'm going to be doing. And then finally, it's about spiritual perspective. It's about really understanding what your scaffold is spiritually. What do you believe in? Do you believe in God? Or do you believe in the source? Do you believe in multiple entities of which you maybe worship or pray to, or become kind of, a student of? What are the ways that you see the world, and what are the values that relate to that? What are the kinds of entities involved in that? And that's, again, something that's really important to think about. Who are, or what are you praying to? What are the intelligences in the world that you worship or believe in? What is the boundary between what you will believe in and not? I think that helps a lot as a scaffold, because when times get really tough, you kind of need to know who you're talking to, who the higher power, or what the higher power is that you're reaching back to, and what the things are that you don't want to connect to. And I think there's a whole world of spiritual life that many of us aren't aware of, that it's really important to be aware of as we go our day-to-day business, and to be aware of when we start feeling a certain thing. Is it us, or is it something else that might be influencing us? And that comes into protection as well. So if we're thinking about spiritual attention, spiritual discernment, spiritual routine, spiritual boundaries, as well as spiritual perspective, all of those things for me make up what is a form of spiritual resilience. And I'd love to explore that a little bit more with you in videos, and also in personal coaching sessions, and also in the training course that I'm developing at the moment. Thank you so much. Take care out there.